Have you ever noticed that the stacking community is absolutely chock full of historians? I mean, you ask somebody who's been stacking for a couple years and they'll tell you what Ben Franklin's pocket piece was at the Treaty of Paris. It's crazy, but it's also a good thing with some cons. Today I'm going to talk about that. So, when you think about silver, gold, again, a lot of what you'll hear is that, oh, this has been, money for thousands of years and this and that. And they're right. They're absolutely right. Metals have been used as a way of, a medium of currency, as a store of value, you name it. All of the normal mantras that you hear about stacking, it's absolutely true. But you kind of have to go deeper than that. You have to ask yourself, why was that the case? Why did they choose gold or silver? Well, that's God's money. All right, that's a whole other conversation. We can go down that rabbit hole, but now the big thing is, you have to ask yourself, if you're going to create a currency, way back when, let's talk Roman era or, even before that. If you're going to create a currency, it's got to be something that everybody can use, right? It's got to be something that can stand the test of time. It's got to be something that's easily recognizable. And so metals kind of fit the bill, right? I mean, just metal in general, it's durable. It's something where, you can manipulate it. In other words, have it, have symbols and pictures and different things on it that give it that instant recognizability. The other part of that is that, you have to build that recognizability over a period of time. It's not something that just happened, Again, one of the things that was brought to my attention recently, at least in concept, that I never really thought about with metals was just that the reason metals most likely were, the currency, the coin of the realm, so to speak, is because, at some point somebody decreed it. It wasn't just by popular demand. Hey, I've got some metal, you've got some metal, let's make this a thing. Somewhere along the line, somebody said, hey, this is what we're going to use as that medium of value. And again, it evolved over time, right? Roman coins, other civilizations' coins, things like that, all the way up to our own, history with, silver as our, monetary medium. But the thing that's hard for stackers to kind of grasp is would that be the case again? Oh, it'll, SHTF, it's going to just, you don't understand, it's going to go back to being the, the currency, or it's going to be the store of value, or it's going to be this or that. And on the surface, that kind of thing makes sense. If you don't think about it and you just ask yourself, what would we use? Well, duh, you're a stacker, of course. Your first thing's going to be, precious metals. Okay. Is it feasible? Absolutely, right? Metals would make a great medium to use as a currency, or again, a store of value. But again, you have to go deeper. You have to ask yourself, is there the infrastructure for it? Is there a way to really efficiently trade metals in an SHTF scenario? The biggest SHTF scenario that you'll hear in the stacking community is, of course, fiat currency is, doomed to fail, and, this is what's going to happen, and then metals are going to have their day. You don't understand, Chris. Every fiat currency is collapsed. That's just the way things work. Again, okay, that perfect example. It's great. It's great to talk these things through because you don't think of these things unless you actually say it out loud. Yes. Is the stacking community correct? Yes, every fiat currency has failed up until now. But here's the other part of that. When you really think about how our system operates via fiat, electronic fiat at that, not even the actual physical fiat anymore. It's literally a digital medium at this point and has been for decades. The money I forget what they said. There's what is it? 2 trillion of actual physical currency in circulation, actual dollars and cents, that's actually, able to be traded and transacted and move around. Everything else is on a screen somewhere. And so that's the real That's the real measure there of, how the system operates. At this point, we're not even really a fiat currency anymore. We are, because again, I mean, in representation, is it a fiat? Yes, it was. This is currency by proclamation. So yes, it is still a fiat system, but it's not a paper system. It's not a paper system anymore. There are numbers on screens. You use your debit card. You write a check. You do whatever it is you do. Does that mean that there would be something else that could be used as currency? Well, of course. Again, the main thing is that in the SHTF scenario, you're going to have much bigger problems trying to trade gold and silver for value. First, if anyone knew you had it, they'd steal it from you. But secondly, how is that going to work? You would instantly have to come out with a recognizable system for everyone to operate by. 1 ounce of silver, is that a loaf of bread? Is it milk? Is it a car? Is it an acre of land? What does it represent? Same thing with gold. How are you going to give me change for my silver? What are you going to do? These are things you got to think through. Well, use fractional. Well, there'll be a uniform system. Well, da-da-da. Okay, so then what you're telling me is right off the bat that metals aren't the answer. Metals don't answer that question. They don't even really get you through any particular time period. Because, again, in my very biased view, yes, you are very biased, metals would really only serve to store that wealth, or store value at the very least, throughout whatever the episode is, whatever the contagion event, whatever the SHTF. If society started to reestablish itself on the back end, then you would be able to say, hey, my metals served a purpose. But as a transactional medium, no. Why? Okay, why wouldn't that be the case, Chris? You just don't understand. You don't understand how it would work. Ask yourself the question. People in our society, not just here in this country, but elsewhere, other cultures are a little bit better with metals. They understand. They have, they have that ingrained history with, metals and prices and understanding the value. People here in this country do not. They don't. It's been hundreds of years since they've really, really grasped what that is. Okay, maybe not hundreds, but over 100 years, let's say, since they really grasped what that was and how that would transact, because we've been operating in a certain manner. And as time goes on, they lose that connection to, oh, well, it has intrinsic value, it has this or that. That's the thing. That's the thing that makes it so crazy when you think about how this would actually work out. People here in our country, they definitely do not have metals. So when you have yours, they're not going to have anything to, again, trade you back as far as the physical medium of metals. All right, well, how are we going to solve that problem? So we're going to enlist the services of a giant mining conglomerate. Who's going to be the rich people? That's another question that I have is in this scenario where there is the SHTF, do coin dealers become the new billionaires? Does the bullion depository, King Herod's treasure? I don't know, but I don't think so. I don't think that would be the first place that people are going to go to say, oh my gosh, I'm the new aristocracy now that everything collapsed. That's the thing. You have to think about this logically. You can't just go off of these tired mantras of like, oh, it's God's money and we'll return to that. No. And like, even when you hear things like, people point out like, oh, Venezuela or this and that, I'm sure there's a lot of things being transacted, including other fiat currencies, not just gold and silver. That much gold and silver doesn't exist for them to be transacting, on a regular basis over there anyway. So that's the thing is like, when you hear these things, you really have to question, like, is that how it's really being done? Are you telling me that Venezuela is running on, gold and silver? That their economy is running on gold and silver? It's not. It's for sure not. Well, the people in the countryside are trading gold and silver. Are they? I'm sure it's, happening in, certain areas, that. But again, it requires a certain infrastructure. It requires that people have access to it. It requires that, so many different things to go right for that to happen. It doesn't just happen that way. And I think that's the part that gets lost on, the stacking community. They fall for all of these things. in this environment, when you're hearing, all the record sales for gold and silver and blah blah blah, there's many in the stocking community who are sitting there thinking, this is it, this is the no, this happens all the time. Remember the silver squeeze? Ebbs and flows, as with everything. Now, that doesn't mean that, I don't believe in metals having their place in, your portfolio or what. No, I absolutely do. Otherwise I wouldn't have them. But do I think that they are the magic bullet that kind of does it all? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think so many of those things are lost on the stocking community. They just, when you hear, so this whole rant per se was actually part of a pretty good conversation, a back and forth with what was his name, a comment in the thread, my last video, from what's his name, Carp Runner. We had a pretty good dialogue back and forth of how is this gonna work, and he was saying basically telling me all the pros of metals and how they would be valued and things like that. And I get it. I just think that at the end of the day, really, again, in an SHTF scenario, which is where metals would have their day, fiat collapse would be an SHTF scenario. But again, it wouldn't just be our fiat. It'd be fiat in general that would have to collapse. Every country's fiat would have to collapse for the SHTF that stackers are kind of dreaming of, to have the last laugh. These kind of things you have to really explore. Would that be really how it is? Who has access to metals? Who understands, the value of metals? Not many people. And so it just wouldn't work. Would they have their place? Maybe. But so would a lot of other things. Food, shelter, weapons, whatever, technology. Those things would be much more in demand than bullion. Might they play a role? Yes. But they definitely aren't the magic bullet. And that's the biggest thing that I wish I could shout to the heavens, to the stocking community. Is it great? Is it a noble hobby? Is it, kind of a mixed bag that you are kind of, providing yourself some options? Absolutely. It doesn't make it a bad thing, but it's just not what it's being sold to you as. You watched T's video earlier with Sherry, where she was talking about, the last few weeks has been insane, keeping some stock, of different bullion because of everything, all the hype, and then it's starting to fall off. Could that be a 1 week kind of thing? Absolutely could be. But I guarantee the bullion dealers are licking their chops at all the suckers who are going to come in, buying hand over fist at $28, $29 after premium, $30 after premium, buying Eagles because they watch Yankee stacking at $40, whatever the hell. Stop. It will go back down. It always does. Silver is an industrial metal. Gold doesn't even have that many industrial uses. Is it, a tier 1 asset? Well, Basel III says it's a tier 1 asset. Great. Is that really going to play at the end of the day if the scenario that you're outlining comes true? The financial collapse, the collapse of fiat? No. Does that mean Bitcoin or No, those aren't going to save you either. How are you going to have energy on the grid to access your Bitcoin? Well, I have it on a USB. And how are you going to access that USB? I have a solar power. Stop. All of it is ridiculous. Again, at the end of the day, if you're saying we're starting from scratch, we're really starting from scratch. But metals aren't going to be the part of that you think they are.